Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Sikorsky, and it is my privilege to welcome you all, some of you are here many times, to the Mendoza College of Business. I'm an assistant professor, teaching professor in the Business Ethics and Society program. The Business Ethics and Society program is one of the newest programs, as many of you students at least know, here in our college, and serves as an interdisciplinary home for faculty whose scholarship and teaching helps students explore questions related to how business can contribute to a more just and humane world, to a more inclusive world, and a more sustainable world. Explores questions related to how Catholic social teaching can intersect with the leading perspectives on how business can fulfill our motto, which is to grow the good in business and society, and how business can ensure that everyone in society, especially those with the greatest needs, benefit from business. In doing so, we are following the mission of our founder, John Cardinal O'Hara, CSC, who wanted a college that would, quote, form people of character with lofty ideals of citizenship, and who would see the primary function of commerce as service to humanity. In keeping with this mission, the Berges Lecture Series, sponsored by the John A. Berges Endowment, features business leaders speaking about their experiences with the ethical dimensions of business. Jack Berges, who died in 2014 at the age of 94, attended MIT, where he was an ROTC and graduated in 1940 as a mechanical engineer. He worked as an engineer before joining and serving in the U.S. Army in 1942 and was awarded an honorary member of the British Empire for his assistance to the British Army while overseas. After leaving the military, Berges subsequently began a 35-year career in management for the General Electric Company. Berges was devoted to service throughout his entire life and always shared his talents and resources with all those whom he could serve, serving on numerous school boards and parish committees as well. He continued in retirement as a board member of Holy Cross College, a lifelong proponent of business ethics. His children endowed in his honor the John A. Berges Business Ethics Lecture Series here at the Mendoza College of Business. We hope to honor Mr. Berges' legacy today with an exceptional speaker whom we're delighted to welcome to Notre Dame and who graciously accepted the invitation to join us all the way from Warsaw, Poland, not Indiana. On a personal note, our speaker hosted a group of 18 Notre Dame students back in May in his offices in Poland, and we're so grateful and privileged to be able to return the hospitality here at Notre Dame. So our speaker will now be introduced by Joe Rudolph, a sophomore in the International Business Scholars Colloquium, who hails from Chicago, studies finance, and is in the Business Honors Program. Come on up, Joe.
Good evening. My name is Joe Rudolph, and tonight I have the distinct privilege of introducing Mr. Tomasz Konik to all of you here in the Mendoza College of Business. Tomasz has been with Deloitte for more than 20 years. Since July 2020, he has held the positions of managing partner at Deloitte Poland and leader in charge of key accounts and industry programs in Central Europe. Since August 2021, he has headed the Deloitte cluster, covering Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Prior to becoming managing partner, he was vice president of the management board in charge of industry programs in Poland and successfully combined this role with responsibility for strategy and operations and consulting, which he took on in 2017. Between 2005 and 2017, he built and developed Deloitte's tax teams in various cities in both Poland and the Czech Republic. Tomasz actively pursues the firm's goal of becoming the undisputed leader in the professional services market, following their brand purpose of making an impact that matters, making a positive impact on the environment in which Deloitte operates. He graduated from the University of Economics in Katowice and completed an international MBA program at St. Gallen Business School. He also studied at IMD in Lausanne, Harvard Business School, and Oxford University, as well as the IESC Business School Universidad de Nevada. He is a licensed tax advisor. In June 2024, Tomasz will officially begin his role as CEO for Deloitte Central Europe. And I ask you all now to please join me in welcoming Mr. Tomasz Konik.
good evening, and can you hear me? It's working. So, very humble to be here, especially after that kind of the introduction. Just maybe to add to that, I'm a father of two daughters, which I'm very proud of. And at the same time, happily married for 22 years already. Yeah? So which is also part of my life. And actually that, like I'm a family man, to all of that, what I'm doing in a business. And, really like, thank you very much, John, like also for this invitation and for like having me here. What I would be trying to present to you in a short way, yeah? And I'm then happy to take any questions like from you, hear your comments. I'll be talking in a values, but really in a practical sense, yeah, how I understand it and how actually in a business it can be used. So I will maybe start with a short case of Deloitte Ukraine, because actually that's something recent which I experienced and what I was doing, and maybe just like a few sentences about the context. Yeah? So Deloitte Ukraine was not part of the so-called the Western European countries. It was more connected to Russia. So basically they started to discuss with us already in 2021 that we can integrate them with our structures. And basically we took that discussions, and actually we discussed with them. The business case was already prepared, and you may believe or not, but frankly speaking, everything was ready. And on 24th of February, the last year, the war started. So basically, we had to change completely our plans, our focus, and maybe, I think, that would be a good. I know that some of you already saw that film, but I can maybe start with a short movie which we prepared after that, actually in the middle of that crisis. That gives you a bit of the perspective what we've been experiencing that time.
Ввечері 23 числа я вже думав, що війна ось почнеться. До цього часу я в це не вірив.
Bo to jest tak blisko, to jest zaledwie Ukraina, 100 kilometrów od Rzeszowa. My tutaj mamy wielu kolegów w pracy, wielu przyjaciół poza pracą.
I was never in such situation. So I was really worried about my friends, about the people I know.
24 lutego miał być typowym tłustym czwartkiem i tak też byliśmy na to przygotowani, że mieliśmy się spotkać i w biurze świętować z tej okazji. Natomiast sytuacja uległa zmianie i jeszcze tak naprawdę we wczesnych godzinach porannych dostaliśmy już pierwsze informacje o tym, że będzie to nasze wsparcie potrzebne.
Societatea în ansamblu a fost preocupată de drama refugiaților și a existat o mobilizare importantă, iar la Deloitte am fost încă din primele zile în rândul întâi al acestui efort.
Naszym celem było jakby od samego początku, żeby dać pomoc, która jest natychmiastowa i która ma jak największy impact i która tak naprawdę realnie wspiera naszych ukraińskich pracowników i ich rodziny.
З того часу почалась, я не можу сказати, рутинна робота, бо це, вочевидь, було щось незвичне для нас, але декілька разів на день ми спілкувалися з нашими колегами з глобальної організації, щоб погодити наступні кроки. Вочевидь, найголовніше було забезпечити наших людей матеріально. Ми розуміли, що багато з них переміщуються, тому ми прийняли рішення авансувати заробітну плату їм на декілька місяців наперед, щоб вони мали засоби для життя. Це було теж дуже непросто. Наприклад, наші фінанси та наше казначейство робили ці платежі, знаходячись у бомбосховищах, бо на той час було дуже багато повітряних тривог та атак на різні міста України.
To wyglądało mniej więcej tak, że siedziałam gdzieś tam na Facebooku, na mediach społecznościowych, sprawdzałam posty osób, które powiedzmy są gdzieś tam na miejscu przy granicy, czy gdzieś na dworcach i zgłaszają, że jest potrzebna pomoc. No i tak właśnie natrafiłam na posta dosłownie znajomej znajomego, która ogłosiła, że są w Korczowej, to jest właśnie zaraz przy granicy z Ukrainą, i potrzebni są wolontariusze. Ile tylko się da.
Dostałem telefon od koleżanki z Warszawy, z którą współpracowałem na innym projekcie i ona, wiedząc, że ja jestem z Rzeszowa, że mam blisko do granicy, po prostu zadzwoniła i zapytała: Kamil, trzeba pojechać po kogoś na granicę, bo jedzie nasza koleżanka z Kijowa już drugi dzień w podróży z dzieciakami i czy możesz ich odebrać, bo przejdą granicę prawdopodobnie dzisiaj wieczorem.
Наша подорож була дуже напруженою і дуже важкою. Зазвичай ця відстань становить біля 5 годин. Для того, щоб поїхати на Західну Україну, ми добиралися більше 15 годин. І після того ми 3 дні стояли біля кордону з Польщею, тому що кількість машин, яка була на кордоні, кількість людей, яка хотіла виїхати і бути в безпеці, була неймовірною.
Ми поїхали з України разом з моєю родиною і з моїми 4 дітьми, яким менше 18. Вочевидь, це та причина, за якою мені дозволили поїхати з України. Спочатку ми приїхали до Молдови, і ви знаєте, якщо подивитися на всю нашу подорож від України до Варшави, то ми подолали більше, ніж 2000 кілометрів. Ми проїхали через 5 країн. І це була дуже складна подорож. Дорогою в нас трапилась аварія. Ми розбили одну із машин. Дякувати Господу, що всі залишилися живі, бо мої наймолодші діти були разом з дружиною в машиnie.
Byliśmy cały czas w kontakcie, minęła sobota, kolejka się posuwała bardzo wolno, minęła niedziela i jeszcze wolniej. Od niej dostawałem takie informacje, że w ogóle w nocy to nie odpalają silników, nie zapalają świateł, tylko samochody pchają, bo dostali taki rozkaz, prośbę od wojska po swojej stronie, żeby po prostu nie zapalać w tym korku świateł, no bo mogłoby to doprowadzić do naprowadzania jakichś rakiet.
V pátek jsme dostali první dotazy z neziskových organizací, jestli můžeme pomoct. Jestli máme lidi, co mluví ukrajinsky, aby jsme mohli pomoct, kde to je potřeba.
Z momentem wybuchu wojny i momentem jakby akcji, że nasza firma będzie pomagać i pomagamy, dostawaliśmy tyle telefonów, maili, informacji na messengerach, na WhatsAppach od ludzi, którzy chcieli pomóc w jakikolwiek sposób. Nawet nie precyzowali w jaki sposób. Mówili: po prostu chcę pomóc, ale jak? Nie wiem, jakkolwiek. Daj znać, w czym mogę się przydać.
I like to play with the kids. I like the costume. And I believe that whenever we do some volunteer work or some help, if we do something we like, we can show that to the people that we are doing. So I thought that it would be a good idea to help the kids, but without them having that feeling that I was there just as an obligation, or that was a job for me.
Pracowałyśmy tak naprawdę przez cały dzień i też w nocy, wliczając w to weekendy, bo po prostu była taka potrzeba, żeby ciągle był ktoś dostępny. Więc też był taki moment, w którym rozpisałyśmy sobie takie mini dyżury i dzieliłyśmy się tą pracą, tak żeby część zespołu mogła odpocząć.
Вони допомагали, вони були з нами на зв'язку, я можу навіть сказати, перші дні 24/7. Це неймовірно. Коли ти розумієш, ти їдеш не знаєш куди, коли тобі знаходять де жити, коли про тебе піклуються навіть банально про те, щоб ти там поїв, щоб в тебе було як знайти свій побут, як знайти своє місце, це неймовірна допомога. Спостерігали не раз, коли просто звичайні люди в Deloitte Польща після роботи йшли на станцію залізничну, допомагали збирати одяг, допомагали готувати їжу для переселенців з України, збирали будь-яку іншу допомогу. Вони організовували, наприклад, разом з чешськими колегами чат-боти.
Můj tým dělá automatizace. Zjednodušujeme procesy ve firmách, děláme to rychle, efektivně. Takže Irena, virtuální kontaktní centrum, začali jsme v pátek, kdy jsme dostali dotaz, pak v sobotu jsme obvolali kamarády, v neděli jsme to postavili, v pondělí běžela.
Były takie sytuacje, owszem, że szłam na dworzec na nocną zmianę od 23 do 7, a od 9 zaczynałam pracę.
My w ramach tego naszego pomagania nie byliśmy sami. Mieliśmy tutaj olbrzymią pomoc innych firm Deloitte z całego świata i to było widoczne. Dostawałem olbrzymią ilość maili, na nie wszystkie byłem w stanie odpowiedzieć od razu, ale jednak ta deklaracja pomocy i faktyczna pomoc, którą otrzymywaliśmy my bezpośrednio, Fundacja Deloitta, była widoczna.
Jednym z filarów była współpraca z organizacjami i NGO-sami działającymi na terenie Polski i Europy Środkowej i Ukrainy. Wspólnie z Fundacją Zarys kupiliśmy całego tira wyposażonego w sprzęt medyczny pomagający szpitalom ratować ludzkie życie. Z Fundacją Dr Clown zorganizowaliśmy spotkania dla 1200 dzieci z Ukrainy, żeby pomóc im choć na chwilę zapomnieć o tym, co przeszły i pozwolić im cieszyć się z tego, że są dziećmi. A pierwszym tak naprawdę naszym działaniem było wsparcie dla domu ukraińskiego.
Iar proiectul nostru Fanion este cel pe care îl derulăm aici, împreună cu partenerul World Vision. Avem două centre speciale, două spații prietenoase cu copiii în care desfășurăm activități educaționale și de recreere.
A oni nám vypráví příhody, jak jim chodí Ukrajinci. A protože Irina začíná, ten telefonát začíná, dobrý den, dovolte se na pomoc, já jsem Irina, jak vám můžu pomoct. A ty Ukrajinci chodí zpátky a ťukají na dveře do ofisu té organizace a ptají se, jestli můžou mluvit s Irinou, že jim pomohla a že to bylo přesně to, co potřebovali v tu chvíli. Vědět, kam mají jít, co mají dělat.
Після переїзду в Польщу всім працівникам Deloitte Україна були запропоновані джоб-офери. І, звичайно, що я джоб-офер прийняла, і наразі я є співробітником Deloitte Польща і працюю з колегами з Deloitte Польща. Z kolegami z Ukrainy my також підтримуємо зв'язок.
Zupełnie abstrahując od liczb, no, każdy zasługuje na pomoc, tym bardziej w takiej sytuacji, czy to jest jedna osoba, czy to jest 1000 osób, no to po prostu pomogliśmy. Więc tutaj nie skupiałbym się jakoś tam na liczbach. Fajnie, że byliśmy taką jedną rodziną w tym wszystkim, zaraz na początku. W sumie dalej jesteśmy.
Nie wyobrażałam sobie, żeby w jakikolwiek sposób odciąć się od tego.
So in this migration center where I was Spider-Man, then more people from Deloitte decided to come because we would share it. So the idea here is don't wait to help. It's better to do it with a team. If you don't have a team, go by yourself. Maybe the team will come.
Będziemy w stanie lepiej pomagać, jeżeli będziemy silną firmą. I to udowodniliśmy przez ten ostatni czas.
Коли я говорю про майбутнє України, я так само вірю в майбутнє Deloitte в Україні. Ця перспектива, вона дуже потужна в тому контексті, що ми розраховуємо на сильну, швидку розбудову України і, вочевидь, ми розраховуємо на те, що наш досвід, наші навички будуть затребувані для того, щоб побудувати нову державу. Знову ж таки, як на мене, вочевидь, тут нам буде потрібна допомога. І той досвід, який є у Польщі, у центральної європейської практики, він 100% стане в нагоді для того, щоб ділитися досвідом і будувати нову Україну.
And the reason for showing really this film is, okay, I think that the business can do good And as you could see in that example, we really had like different plans, business plans, how to integrate, how to do the business together. But when the situation came, actually, and that's what I'm in particular very proud of our people, because it was, okay, to some extent, it needs to be led from the top. But frankly speaking, even I was amazed how many volunteers, how many of the people actually wanted really to contribute to that initiatives. And you saw it, like it was like almost 500 people who actually offered their time, their homes, to support the Ukraine. And that's what I believe, we should do in that situation, yeah, to refocus our efforts for directly for the people, and we did. So I'm in particular, very, very proud of that. In addition, that story has some epilogue, and it's like, pretty fresh news, because we still continue, we've been continuing in this discussion how to integrate Ukraine to us. And Deloitte is a partnership. So basically, in order to make all of these key decisions, we need to have a voting of the partners. And that voting happened actually the last week, the last Monday. And basically all of the CE partners decided to integrate Ukraine with us. So we are formally one firm. So something which we started like as a business journey 2 years ago, it already has some, I would say, new beginning. But at the same time, like, we also did, and we also stood up as people, as human beings, to support our colleagues because they were in need. And of course, the situation here was quite extreme. The war is still there. But I believe that's what the business should do also in that type of the situation. So that's about this case. Then maybe a bit broadly, what I personally believe is that as a business people, we need to have values, but we need to have certain compass which actually will be direct us, because we are doing like pretty much every day some of the decisions. So it's not only this compass is not only needed to be available for that type of extreme situation, it's actually needed every day. And in Deloitte, maybe starting with Deloitte first, and then I move on to myself, is that okay, we call it shared values. And that's something which glue us all together. So wherever you are working in Deloitte, basically, that shared values exists everywhere. And I must say, I'm, again, like in particular, proud of that we have it, because it's not only on paper, and the case which I showed to you with Ukraine, actually that is how we put, these values into the practice. So if we have it, to take care of each other, so what better example of taking care of each other than what we did in Ukraine? And we have many cases like this. Right now is another crisis. There is a difficult situation in Israel and Palestine, and we are also trying to act there. Not me personally, but as a firm, we are helping. So that's on that. And I already started, to say it. I'm not theoretic. I know that I'm a businessman and I'm a doer at the same time. And what I believe, and I said it, it's sometimes easy, to talk about the values when you have some extreme situation in your life. The war, something really big happens, but the values need to be integrated in everything what we are doing. And even yesterday on one of these meetings with the students, I was asked by some of you probably, that, okay, how you, as a person, which kind of the value do you have? And is it any difference between you personally and you at work? No, it's not. Yeah, it needs to be integrated. It cannot be really divided. That's either we believe in something, and then it will be extremely difficult, to have two faces on some of these things. And this everyday dilemma, I think that's even probably more difficult than this extreme situation, because that's something which happens every day. And there's like one quite good poem of Wisława Szymborska, who was the Polish Nobel Prize winner. And he once wrote in her poems that we know ourselves only as far as we've been tested. And we all are tested like almost every day, and we'll have this dilemma, okay, what to do. And without really the clear compass, without the clear values where we are going, it's extremely difficult to decide then on that. So that's my lesson learned from that. And then another example, maybe not that extreme, but that's a bit like, my story, how I started to be the CEO of Deloitte. It's and here a bit of the context, because I think also it's important. The Poland and the countries in Central Europe, we've been under the communist regime till end of the 80s. And like for you, probably it's not okay. You are not aware, what happened that time. But there was like basically no freedom, like in terms of the democracy. At the same time, this communistic system, like there was no free market economy. So it was quite tough for the people living there. So many of the things actually for the Central Europe started in 90s. So it's not that long ago. Yeah, it's like, we started, to be a free country and to have a free market economy in the beginning of the 90s. And that's actually the same with the professional service firms who actually appeared in our region in 1995. That's what happened with Deloitte. So we are like pretty much young industry, like also for the country. I started in Deloitte as an intern. Like, as you, graduating after the study, started as an intern in Deloitte, and then, like, after 20 years, become the CEO for Poland and then 3 Baltic countries. And one of my first decisions, and that's what we also believe in Deloitte, that we believe that impact of the business is like, that we would like to have this impact that matters. That I set up the Deloitte Foundation. And we decided, and that's a partnership, so we decided among the partners that 1% of our revenues were actually dedicated to that foundation to be able actually to realize some of the programs. We actually have quite clear strategy on that. There's like we are supporting education, we are supporting all of the initiatives that are connected to the climate change, and we also support some of the charity initiatives because we still see, especially in our region, there is a lot of the inequality and unprivileged people, and especially the children, and we would like to support them as well. And that's the results which we achieved only for the last year. So we basically impacted in a positive way almost like 600,000 people. Okay, that's the numbers, but I think the numbers are also matters in that case. At the same time, what I'm really particularly proud of, that almost like 80% of Deloitte employees in Poland, they were actively involved in all of the initiatives which Deloitte Foundation was doing. And that's how I believe we can put some of these theoretic ideas about the values, about what we believe into the practice. Because that's really at the end of the day what really matters. And then the ethical business. You probably experience here the same, but in Europe in particular, there is like more and more trust in the business people than any other group of the stakeholders. Yeah, so the politicians basically lost their credibility in many of the cases, many of the perspectives. Even the people actually connected with the religion, they also assessed right now are rather low. So the business people, that's the group who actually, it's still seen as the group who actually should lead more and more. And I believe, that's, yes, that's the responsibility. But in order really to lead, the business people need to lead with the right skill set on the values. Because without that, it will be extremely difficult. And then the last message, what I would like to really to pass to you on that short presentation is that what I strongly believe that there are some theoretic concepts like values in the business, but what that in practice means, that means that you, as a people who actually will be graduating from that university, will finally get to some of the position in the business. Sooner or later, some of you will be the CEOs, will be leading some of the firms. And actually, in practice, how the world will change, and I hope it will change in a positive direction, will depend on you. because you'll be taking this decision and you'll be, okay, trying to lead, certain areas. And I hope that you will be doing that, with this right compass and like really having the right values in mind. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm not passing all of that, to you. I think that there is certain responsibility also, which is connected with the current leadership. But I think it's extremely important. And without that, it's extremely difficult, to do something on a daily basis. Yeah? So the values, it's not something which you can use occasionally. It's something which we should use like every day. So with that, and that was the last slide, as I said, there was a short presentation, but happy to take any questions or hear your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Konik, for your presentation. I mean, there was a lot packed in there, and I think a very powerful video for many of us as well. So, as is our custom here, we'd like to prioritize questions from students, because that's why we're all here, is to be of service, right? So if there's any students who have questions, or anybody else for that matter, we'll bring a microphone to you so that we can all hear.
Hi. Well, I noticed on this slide that you had some posts on Facebook about you hosting some sort of Ukrainian refugees or something. Could you share that story a little bit with us about your own personal experience with the Ukrainian crisis?
Yeah. That's actually. I did this post because my family actually posted in total 5 people from Ukraine. Like 2 of them, the mother with the young daughter, that was in a home of my mother-in-law, and actually we had, because we live not like separately, so we had actually 3 girls, the mother and 2 girls, like the woman, yeah, because one is 18 and the other one's 28, yeah. So in total we had these 3 girls. And actually that post was, it was quite emotional post, I must say, because we took them really at the beginning of the war. They were looking, for some place to stay. So we decided, okay, to host them with us. And I remember, our first meeting in a flat that I must say I was quite emotional on that, and the girls actually were also quite emotional. One of them, the middle one, she was crying, yeah, basically all the time, because she just left the country. She left her husband in the Ukraine, and she didn't know what is happening there. And I was also actually, close to cry, at that actually particular moment. And I remember that, this youngest one, she came to me. She actually, called me, and basically she said, look, we need to be strong in that situation. Yeah. And that actually, struck me in that particular moment, that much, that I thought, how it's possible, the adult man, and then, it's actually hacked by almost as a child, yeah, and which actually is telling me, you need to be strong. But it was actually very, I would say, very strong message to me, and I remember that, and I would probably remember that, to my end, yeah, that was, as I said, quite emotional. But with that post, I wanted also, to post it dedicated, and I believe I was in Kiev, by the way, a month ago. I visited our office, met with the people, and one of the things which I really observed there, how strong people are there. Yeah, I'm amazed of that. Yeah, Kiev is relatively safe place, but at the same time, these air alerts happens every day, and the wars are actually during the night, because then basically you need to wake up and go to the shelter, and most of the shelters are not in the same building where you live, so it's difficult. And at the same time, when I talk with the people at the streets, they're they're extremely strong. Yeah, they are basically saying, look, we need to overcome that. We need to adjust. and they are, so I was amazed by that, and that was, you know, another example what I experienced myself. But yes, we had like these 3 girls. By the way, like 2 of them, they decided to be back in Ukraine. One of them, she's still in Warsaw, so she decided to stay.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. So in class we learned, oh, this is kind of loud, okay. In class we learned how St. John Paul II helped in Poland's transition from communism. Does that inform any of your decisions as CEO?
You know, I'm a Catholic and I'm a Christian, yeah, so yes, openly, you know, saying, you know, a lot of my values actually, you know, comes from the religion. And of course, you know, the John Paul II actually was like very important, you know, person you know, for Poland, but I hope not only for Poland but for the world. So yeah, it's impacted me for sure, and yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Do you think that if the war in Ukraine had never happened, you would still have seen the coalescence of the Deloitte team for the common good? Or do you think that war in times of trouble are specific cases that draw out an otherwise dormant fellow feeling for each other? So, like, what are other examples of how the Deloitte team, you think, has come together and volunteered for the common good outside of this specific instance?
You know, I couldn't hear you well. You know, can you repeat? You know, the question. Sorry, but it's like you know, this voice of this mic is difficult. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Do you think that if the war in Ukraine had never happened, you would still have seen the coalescence of the Deloitte team for the common good? Or do you think that war in times of trouble are specific cases that draw out an otherwise dormant fellow feeling for each other?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got it. Thank you. So, you know, I presented this Ukraine case because, okay, you know, most of you actually, you know, heard about that, and that's important. But as I said, you know, I do not believe that, you know, the values and something which, you know, also the business should do good is because of some of that extreme situation. You know, we should do it like, you know, no matter, you know, what will really happen. And that's why I set up the foundation. By the way, I set up the foundation before the war started. So it was not really directed or impacted in any way by the Ukraine war. But of course, when the war happened, you know, the Deloitte Foundation was basically had to support the Ukrainians because that was the need which we observed. Yeah. And just to give you maybe also like a bit of the little flavor, you know, how that was that time. You know, when the war started, we had like, you know, we already had like 1 million of the Ukrainians in the country, yeah? But the first month, we had another 1 million in the country. You know, the flow of the people from Ukraine at that time was really massive. Yeah, in Warsaw, which is a relatively big city, it's a city of 2.5 million people. We couldn't find basically a flat or like hotel, like room for anybody. So that's why we basically transformed some of our stadiums or the schools or the school halls into basically the hotels. Okay, there was a hotel, like a joint hotel, and the people actually were sleeping there. So that was the challenge. But no, and by the way, it's like irrespective of what will happen, and I hope the war in Ukraine will be finalized like soon, like in a positive way. But I would like to continue with the foundation, and I think that impact should be kept. Yeah, it's like, and there are some other needs what we are doing. I'm personally coming not from Warsaw. I'm coming from the south of Poland, which is very unprivileged like area in Poland. Yeah, which is like there was a lot of the heavy industry, which after the communist time, basically, you know, all of that business actually collapsed. So we had huge unemployment that time, and there are even cities which actually lost every, like, you know, big firm. So the people really are in need, in trouble. Yeah? So no, I think it's something which definitely I would like to continue.
Thank you for your presentation. The title of your presentation was Business Doing the Right Things, Is It Worth It? I take it your answer is yes, it's worth it. But I'm interested to know what the it is. So what is it that you see the trade-off being? What is, you want to do good through business, even if it comes at the expense of what exactly? Is it profits, or is it something else that you think you're trading off against doing the right thing?
You know, my personal view is that, okay, that the profit that's not a bad thing, yeah, and that's what I also said in that film. I think that, you know, the film, in order to be able to do good, needs to be strong film. Yeah, so it's probably a matter, you know, how you balance that, but it's like, you know, profitability of the film, I think it needs to be there, yeah, because, you know, without the profit, sooner or later, but the film is actually out of the market. So no, I think it's rather, you know, the matter how to have the right focus on, because, you know, the world is, you know, right now with so many different priorities, so it's difficult really to have the focus on something. Yeah, and I think this making good and having a positive impact, we need to have the right focus on that in many of these areas. Like, you know, what we actually right now trying to really to focus, you know, to support the education. Basically, I know about the US, but in Poland, the education system for that, like the primary schools haven't changed for, I don't know, hundreds of years. And frankly speaking, right now, what we started really to do is to, you know, to impact on that in the way that we train the teachers, how they can, you know, change that. Yeah, so that's one of the action which we started. The climate change, you know, I participated in a conference like 2 weeks ago about the pre-COP conference. So, you know, before this big conference in Middle East about, you know, the climate change, and the same thing. Yeah, I think that, you know, many firms, I'm still observing that okay, they are talking about that, but they don't really have the right focus, and they are not doing things around of that. So I think that's something which should change. Yeah, so I'm not really seeing, okay, that it's like, you know, there's a balancing thing between the profits and, you know, what we are doing good. I think that, okay, let's do the profit, but then let's also have the focus on how we are impacting, you know, with the firms as a businesses, like on our society, on something which is outside of us as well, not only focusing on us. Yeah, that's.
Thanks for your talk. So focusing on Central Europe generally, so Ukraine and beyond, what would you see as maybe 2 or 3 of the main challenges to ethical and effective business, say, in the coming decade?
I think that, you know, the problem maybe in Central Europe is a bit that, you know, we still inherited, you know, some of this bad habit, you know, from the past. Yeah? So in our countries, like, for example, the corruption, you know, still exists. And I think that's something which definitely we should focus more. In Ukraine, we are talking right now, okay, how to help them, but the corruption exists still there. You know, there are other Central European countries like Bulgaria, like Hungary, which there is a big issue about that. Poland, maybe not, but the others, yes. So I think that, you know, some of these bad things, unfortunately, we inherited, you know, from this communist time, and that should definitely change. I think, and that's what I'm not really happy, because, okay, we developed as the region very much, and Poland developed in particular very well over the last years. But at the same time, you know, what I'm observing, and I'm not happy about that, is that these differences and the inequality over the last years increased significantly. And I think that that's something which I would like to focus even more. And I think that, you know, that's, you know, our governments will focus on that, and the businesses will focus on that as well. Because without that, it will be really difficult, you know, to build the society like as a whole. And I don't want, you know, to have this division in the society. So that's this inequality, unfortunately, I think it is an issue. And especially when you say, when you look into that, you know, that the level, you know, the baseline in our countries is much lower than, for example, in the Western European countries. Yeah? So that might be an issue as well. So that's probably about this too. But I also think that, you know, many of the things in Central Europe, you know, just started. Yeah, it's like 30 years. So probably you also need, to learn a lot, to understand, the good examples, good benchmarks, maybe from somewhere outside will be also, quite helpful, how we can do things. Because, many of these things, as I said, the advisor business in Poland is only like 30 years. So it's a relatively short period of time. And it's difficult really to integrate all of that and to change that like in that very fast pace.
Hi, can you talk about what you learned in your internship that has like stuck with you until now, and maybe like the foundation of where you are now that you learned then?
Sorry, but that one I couldn't hear it like almost at all. Yeah, so. Okay. Okay. My internship was like 20 years ago. Yeah, so. I did this interview. I started as an intern in the firm, and what really works for me, that time it was that I wanted to stay after that internship actually in the firm, because what was really good for me is that Deloitte, even that time, was actually quite good platform to try the new things, and I saw that whatever I will decide to do, I can try it. Yeah, I can a bit of the experiment on that, and at the same time, I think that the culture which I hope still have it. Yeah, but we had it like at that time in Deloitte. That was something which really worked for me. Yeah? So we have a quite good group of the people and team to support each other, and I felt good there. Yeah, so that was probably like some of the reason I decided to stay. And I already said it like also on one of this meeting which I had here, that what was important for me, that I like and I enjoy my journey with the firm. I really enjoy it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing what I'm doing, and I think that without that would be difficult really for me to stay. Yeah, I would rather move somewhere else. But so far, I'm already like 20 plus years in the firm, and I still enjoy that journey, because that also gives me like quite big scope of the things which I can do. As a CEO, yes, I decided to set up the foundation and I could do it. So I was supported by the others. Yeah. So it was not maybe about my internship, because it was quite a long time ago, but I still have this enjoyment and I still like doing what I'm doing.
Hi, thank you so much. When it comes to the charitable projects that your employees do, how do you decide? I mean, for your private sector projects, I'm assuming you're looking for a return. You're looking for things that are going to have impact and make money. But for your charitable projects, how do you decide which ones to do, and like how much of your employees' time should be devoted to that versus kind of the core work of Deloitte?
Mm-hmm. So basically what we decided, so that's why, not to have these conflicting, priorities. That's why I also wanted to have the foundation, yeah, because it's like, under the one umbrella, but at the same time there is a bit different team who actually is working on that. So it's separated, and I think that was done actually intentionally, because without that, I believe it would be difficult really to have the right focus. Yeah, so with that we have a focus. Then the second one, we decided, and I know it's tough, yeah, but we decided, that's the same as with this compass. So we decided which project we would like to see and which project actually would like to support. So we are looking for the education, for climate, and for charity. So these three, I know it's broad, but at least, it's narrowed that a bit, to some priorities. Yeah, so we are getting also, some of the questions from the other areas, but basically we are saying, no. So you need to also say no to some of that, because you have the limited resources. So that's the second one. we have the board in the foundation. I'm also like part of that board, and basically we are discussing, which project actually would be supporting. So it's kind of the alignment which finally we have, and then we go. In terms of how our employees can be engaged into that, basically what I decided in Deloitte Poland is that we agreed that like each of the employee has 2 working days which they can spend for the non-profit projects. And then actually that's their decision where they invest their time. So I'm not pushing them to anything, but I set up the platform that, okay, 2 working days per year minimum, it's something which they are paid and they can actually spend it on something else. And that works because as I told you already, like 80% of them, they are using this time and they are spending that for different initiatives, which are organized by the foundations, or even some of them, they are bringing some other ideas which they can then support. But that's basically how it works. So far the system works quite okay.
Okay. Hi. As many of us are starting our careers in the next few years, what actions would you recommend we take to make a positive difference in business and in our communities while we are still early in our careers?
I think that, we definitely would like to continue. I do not see right now the need, to change our strategy right now. Some of these programs which we started, like, for example, educational program is still like in progress. Yeah? So we will be continuing with that. Climate is a big topic, and we would like definitely to continue with that as well. And the charity, yes, we are doing that, we'll be doing that, probably, okay, changing a bit the projects which actually are there, but that's, so I do not see, right now the reason actually, to change the priorities. Yeah, I think we should still like, stay focused and to deliver on that what we agreed and what we have in the pipeline, and we have a lot. Yeah, so yeah.
Maybe I can ask a question. So a lot of students often ask us kind of, how do I find the ethical boundaries I will never cross sort of in professional life or business life? And I imagine as you work up the career ladder, there's probably a lot of occasions where ethical challenges present themselves, things you have to say no to, or various boundaries you need to draw. Could you share some boundaries that you have, or maybe challenges that you've had to face, and times where you've had to just sort of draw a boundary beyond which you would not go, versus kind of a lot of space where sometimes there's not necessarily a right decision? So how do you go about kind of navigating these ethical challenges that come up, which I imagine a CEO faces a lot of?
Yeah. Thanks, John. I think that of course, probably is a lot of the theories, okay, how to set up these boundaries. But frankly speaking, when the more I'm in the business as a person with the right values, okay, you can feel it. You just feel it that, okay, that, when you are doing, okay, when you are like, even like, closer to that boundaries. And frankly speaking, and that's, I like this definition of the ethical behavior, is that, which I heard from someone else, is that, okay, that, what does it mean, to really to be ethical is actually to do the good things when nobody is really watching. And I think, that to some extent what I'm really trying to do, but on these boundaries, you'll probably need to, okay, to spend some time, to work on that yourself, because it's pretty much individual. But at the same time, you will feel it. Yeah, you will feel it, like yourself. Yeah, okay. If you are even close to to crossing some of the boundaries. And I think that, okay, as a Christians, yeah, probably, okay, we are like even in a good situation, because some of this of the values actually it's not something which we are given, like, okay, like right now, but it's something which we can progress and develop, already for some time. Yeah. So, okay, I'm talking, okay, about myself, but that was really very much helpful for me, how I'm acting that. At the same time, maybe Does it mean that you will not fail? Probably not. Yeah, I was failing, quite a few times. I would say on some of these things, which I'm not happy what I have done in the past. But the only thing which I can do is okay. It's really to go on and still, to improve, for the next time. And I hope that I'm doing, and I'm, going into this good direction. Yeah? So you'll have the failures as well, most likely. It's difficult to be perfect, but if you believe and if you have that right compass, I think the only thing which I'm trying to do is actually to keep that direction. Yeah, that's the only thing which I can do.
Any final questions? All right, well, friends, thank you all for coming, and I think our last remaining task is to give a very warm Notre Dame thank you to our guest speaker. So thank you very much.